about this thing called the tabernacle, or the temple as it became. Now there's one other important detail that if you're reading the Old Testament, you really need to be able to appreciate this. So I want to visually illustrate it. Because what we have is a description in the law, and then it features all throughout this. And it's this thing where there was a curtained fence in a rectangle. It's approximately 75 feet. I'm not sure what that is in metric. 150 feet that way. So, and then in here there was a 4-posted gate, a fabric curtain gate. And as you came through here, you're confronted immediately with a 10-foot by 10-foot brazen altar. Brazen means it was covered in bronze. And then a little further down, there was a wash basin. Some translations call it a laver, or a C-S-E-A. And then just past that, you had this thing called the tent of meeting. And the tent of meeting, again, had a curtain dividing it. This was called the holy place. And in here, this was called the Holy of Holies. Now, in here, we had an altar just this side of the curtain, and on there incense was burned by the priests. So priests could enter into this part every day. In fact, they were told to continually have incense burning on that altar. And over here was a table, and on that table bread was placed every day without yeast, so it was kind of more like a dry biscuity sort of thing today. The Jews call that bread matzos bread, and it's a flat sort of bread, and it was placed there. 12 of those pieces of bread were put there, one for each tribe of Israel. And then over here we had the menorah. The menorah is an oil-filled candlestick, and it was filled every day and lit. It had to be a light as well. So the priests would come in here and ensure that incense was put on the altar, bread was put on the table of showbread, or shewbread as the King James calls it. And then over here was the candlestick that had to be filled with oil and kept alight. Now if you read this, it's very easy to go, oh, what's going on here? Well, there's a lot going on here. In fact, you could spend literally your whole life looking at this and still not plumb the depths of the symbolism in this. Let me whet your appetite a little bit. You see, everything here has significance. The 4-posted gate, 4 in Scripture speaks of all the earth. The Bible talks about the 4 winds of the earth. Now, we know there's not 4 winds, but it's an expression to say all of the earth. Talks about the 4 corners, talks about these fourness of the earth. So it's an invitation. This is an invitation to everybody, everywhere in the world. So God is not just the God of the Hebrews. God is the God of the whole world, all of creation. The invitation to come to God goes out to all the world. And we're going to see a reference to this in this particular passage that we're looking at. But it'd be easy to read it and sort of close it up and go, what on earth is that all about? You know, we've got a tabernacle that had to be fenced in by a 150-foot long, whatever that is in English, and 75-foot fence that way, and it had to be 7 foot high, and it had to have silver caps on top, and you came in through a 4-posted gateway, and you, as soon as you come in, you're confronted by a 3 metre by 3 metre by 2 metre high barbecue called an altar, where animals were literally barbecued on this as they were sacrificed. And then as you proceed down toward a tent, sort of toward the west of of this precinct, you're confronted with this great big wash basin, and then you come to this tent that's got 5 posts, and apparently that's got significance. And you come in, any priest was allowed in there, only the priests were allowed in there. And then there was a curtain, and the other side of that curtain was this long box called an ark. An ark actually means a wooden box, or a box. And only the high priest could go in there, and he could only go in there once a year. And you could read this and think, boy, this is like, what do I need to know any of this for? Well, 40% of New Testament language is made up of this imagery. So the New Testament actually thinks much of these concepts here are a big deal.